Welcome to a wonderful collaboration today. I've got lovely person that I've met and we've been following each other's journey on LinkedIn for a while now. So obviously whoever's here and you're watching, you're on my YouTube channel and my LinkedIn live. Welcome, and I hope that Lorlett and I will entertain you today. We'll talk more about how our connections happen, but today's episode is on the power of connection, and we'll go delve deep into what we mean by that. So, without much ado, I'm going to invite Lorlett into the show. Just 1 second. Hi, Lorlett.
Hello, Manuara. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. It's wonderful to have you, and it's I feel courageous that we're doing this.
Me too. Me too. And it's nice to be working with you. As you can see, I'm getting used to the UK. I'm well wrapped up, because I just got back from Jamaica and it's quite cold. So I make sure that I'm nice and warm. So thank you for inviting me on this call, and looking forward to our conversation.
Excellent. So we'll have people commenting. You might see people commenting on the side. Just a little bit of apologies in advance if I don't see your message, because I get quite engrossed in the conversation, and I think there's a lot that we can learn from each other, and every conversation I have with Lolette is a mind opener. Some of you may know Lorlett already. She's a visionary and has some wonderful stories that themselves are stories of leadership and helps unlock our minds of the possibility of what is possible. As Lorlett and I both believe, I think we both have that in common. Anything is possible if you don't give up. And Lolette, I'm over to you now. But anybody who is watching or you watch the replay, we would be really, really grateful for any comments you have, any feedback. Life is all a journey and everything is a lesson to be learnt. So I'm more than happy if you have critical feedback to give us. But we're going to be human today. So over to you, Lolette.
Okay, thank you, Mamoira. So, for those who don't know me, I am the CEO and founder of One Hand Car Club. And One Hand Car Club really fits into what we're doing today because it's around connection, it's around partnership, it's around community. And when we look at how the world is these days, it's important the power of connection. And when you think about connection, um, so many people are working away from home now. And if you're a leader, you've got to really know how to connect with people. And it all starts about how you communicate. And even with technology, you got to learn how to connect with people. It's not before how we used to go networking live. We just start doing that again. But if you think back into the last 3 years, 4 years, really had to learn how to connect with people. And it's important if you're going to be a leader to really look at the power of that connection. I mean, I met Monwara through LinkedIn, and that was just so amazing. We met 2 years ago. And, the thing I really got from that connection we did recently is that, both of us are in different places. When we first met 2 years ago, we were in different stages in our career, stages in where we're at. And, this time it was really intentional because she shared something on LinkedIn. I liked it, and then I made a comment about us doing some work together. And this time when I met with her, we're in different places, completely different places. I didn't have any hang-ups, not knowing her, not trusting her. Totally. We met for supposed to be for an hour, and we end up spending 4 hours really talking and getting connecting, getting to know her, asking questions. And for me, that is the real deal. When I decided to connect with her, it really was more about getting to know her and what she's about It wasn't just superficial, well, yeah, we're having a meeting. It was really about, yeah, okay, who is this individual? What's she up to? And I've been following her on LinkedIn and, see all the great things that she's up to. So there was a story behind our meeting and there's a connection. And I think if you're going to connect with somebody, the thing is to find out more about them. And I say to my clients when they're going to a meeting or an interview, make sure you do your background research on the person because people love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about their stories. And the interesting thing is that when people realize that you take the time out to find out about what they're up to, it makes a huge difference. What's that, Manora?
I love that. I love what you said about, like the taking the time and getting to know. Because you have to have ways to connect to see what the possibilities may be. And I'm all about like wanting to really understand people because possibilities only come about when we actually see all the various connections between each other. I do think that's why collaborations are so hard because sometimes people look at someone who might be in the same field as them and automatically assume, oh, yeah, we can collaborate. But we all come with different ideas in our head. It takes a lot to put those ideas aside and really listen and really understand. And that's why most people struggle with collaboration because if you are allocating every hour of your day in monetary terms, like the money, as far as I'm concerned, comes after. You got to do the groundwork first, right? Lorlett, am I kind of supporting what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. It's taking the time out to find out about that person, and sometimes it's compliments. You say to somebody, oh, I like your headscarf. Oh, I like that top you have on. I mean, I don't know for the people listening, but the reality is like sometimes when you walk in the street and somebody take your time out to say hello, you kind of think, oh, stop it in your track. It's that connection. When I grew up in a rural part of Jamaica where, no one passed you, no matter how old a young child or an older person would pass you and not say hello. So I didn't realize how important that was until, I came to the UK and that just didn't happen at the level like I was accustomed to. And I used to think, oh my God, that person passed me and not say hello. How could they not say hello? you know, and so that hello is important. The connection, because what people actually say, I've actually seen you. I've seen you. You're in existence. And how many people work in corporations or even in the workplace, and people don't see them at all? Feel quite invisible. So it's important around that power of communication is the key. And I don't think that people realize that what gives us access to our power is how we communicate with people. How we communicate is so important. Imagine when I met up with Manwara, I was stiff and not clear and, have some kind of hang up, holding back, withholding how I feel and what I was sharing with her. We would never be doing this call this morning, but it's about really understanding the key thing around connection is how you communicate.
Absolutely, and that is the in the heart. If the communication isn't right, or it becomes obvious from the body language that somebody doesn't trust you, it's very, very hard to break down those barriers that usually stand in the way of collaboration. As humans, we've been in plenty of situations where somebody has broken our trust. We've been hurt, we've been deceived over our lifetime. And sometimes I understand it becomes so much more harder than to trust again. But without it, it's very hard to connect with people and even harder to collaborate. Because whether it is a team that you work with or whether it's someone you develop a partnership with, you have to build trust as a leader to be able to work collaboratively. And everybody needs to work collaboratively to make success happen. You think that that mountain climb was all down to me? If Gula and I, when we met, didn't sit down and have a chat for nearly, I don't know, 2 hours or something, 2.5 hours, our first meeting, I don't think that mountain climb would have happened. If I didn't have that support. That was a collaboration with Gula, Kate. Kate brought lots to the table. She couldn't attend on the day with us, but she was very heavily involved at the planning stage. And I think this is what people don't realize. If you are doing everything on your own, like today, okay, this is something that I do on my own on weekends, and I love these conversations, Lorlett. I really do. I
Great.
seriously, I go away after the conversation, and it's the next day when I re-hear and re-listen, and I learn something new.
And it's great that you said that because, the whole thing around people see the end product. 9 times out of 10, people see the end product, but not recognizing what they say. Public success is often start in silence or in the background because, when you see the success in the front, a lot of preparation happened before that, to make it happen. So I shared on LinkedIn this week, a man on a mountain, he didn't just drop there. I think
Mm.
one of the great coaches said that he didn't just get there, and it's like seeing a turtle on a fence. He didn't just get there. Somebody actually put that turtle on a fence because it's impossible for for that turtle to climb on that fence. So, somebody gave it that support. And it's the same as the mountain climber. You see, yes, the flags up there and you're waving or people winning awards, but what did they do? What did they have to do before they got there? And, connection. It's all about connection. And so my question to you, Monora, what is it like? Imagine so many people believe that they can do it on their own and, can't understand why they're not producing the results in that sense. You know, imagine that for where you've got to in your career, if you didn't get support, what would that be like for you? Imagine, can you imagine it?
I can imagine it would have been hard, and I wouldn't be where I am. Um, People sometimes give you support where they don't even realize they've done it. And I think the worst leaders are those who don't even recognize that they've had that support, you know. And sometimes it's not your coach or your mentor.
Mm,
Sometimes it's the people around you, a partner, your own children. At work, it could be the colleagues you are line managing. I have found that my biggest lessons have come from them.
mm, mm,
My growth is very much tied to them. And if they weren't around or they didn't teach me those lessons, and I wasn't willing to have an open mind, I think that's another key. You have to have an open mind. You haven't learned everything. There's so much more to learn. And I think for me, if I didn't have that support, I wouldn't be who I am today. I mean, just the realization I could do this came through a process. Maybe if I sat down and reflected and analyzed, I'd be able to figure it out, just like you and I figured out. I
mm,
posted, you
mm,
connected, you
mm,
commented, and you
mm,
said that would be a really good masterclass. And then we talked about it, and I said, well, let's do it then.
mm, mm, mm.
And then I wrote about our meeting on LinkedIn. I posted, and one of our connections then suggested the power of collaboration or power of connection,
Listen, yeah.
which then became the topic for today. But I want to go back to what you said earlier about um, having that willingness initially, what we call being intentional. So
Mm,
connecting with people is the very first stage towards a collaboration. Now, what would you say about intentions and connections? You kind of touched upon it. I just feel like you have some powerful stuff to say about it.
I think, first and foremost, whatever you do, you got to have a plan. You have a plan in action. So, for example, you have to have a growth plan. And I learned that. If you want to grow, you need to have a plan. There is no question about it. You know, what is in that plan? That plan will enable you to know what is it you're actually looking for. So I knew that after our conversation about creating a masterclass, I put a plan in place. You know, what's that going to look like? So when I meet with you, what conversation are we going to be having? And, you know, what activities, you know, what conversation, what is it I'm going to. So, you know, you have to be intentional. You have to really intentional is looking for the outcome, which is going to make me understand, you know, who is this person and how is this person adding value to me? What's my strength? What is it I'm good at in order to understand who I am interacting with? So, what most people don't do, don't have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, then you don't know what you're looking for. You don't know how to interact with somebody, you know, so you have to be intentional, regardless of what it is you're looking for. You wouldn't go anywhere without, like, for example, going on a holiday and went to the, some people might do because that's how they operate, you know, give me a lastminute.com trip, you know, with some people, the planning starts from the beginning. So there's a plan and a structure. But even not having an idea where you're going is still a plan because that person is a risk taker and they're quite happy to be jumped anywhere and thrive there, where some people are not that able to really step into a situation and manage that risk, where some people are. And, you know, looking at somebody turning up at a travel agent and said, oh, get me a ticket to anywhere the cheapest. You know, somebody else on the other side might think, oh my God, how could you do that? You know, I need to know where I'm going. I need to know where my hotel is going to be. I need to know this. And some people just don't need to know anything. You know, they just thrive wherever they're at because that's who they are. Because the thing is, they've already got an innate way of understanding wherever you put them, they will find a way to thrive. And those are the type of people who are the risk takers. They are the crazy ones. You know, you put them in any situation and they will
Are
thrive.
you saying I'm crazy?
Well, you didn't know how to climb a mountain, Manara, but you actually, you know, you get there and continue to. But it's true. There's sometimes we might not have it written down, but we have an idea about what it would look like. You know, so it's in that some people don't necessarily write things down, but they have a plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I am a planner. And, one of the things I know people watching me, following me would very, and my friends, I would say on LinkedIn, and they look out for me and they worry about me burning out. But let me just like explain something. So the reason why I have to plan and I have to organize is I'm a CEO of a charity that is quite an agile and creative organization. So we're very fast moving, and my team are like really, really productive in what they do, and we make so much impact in the borough. As a CEO of that organization, I have huge responsibilities. So when I am planning so much as I can take, mentally and physically, because I've got to look out for my own well-being. Knowing that I'm a giver, I have to be careful. So when you suggested the collaboration, initially it was like, oh my gosh, am I taking on another thing? But then I had to look at ways if it didn't fit with my existing plan, which is something I was doing. Like on Saturdays I was doing this live streaming on Saturdays for a while, and then I have guests coming on board, community leaders, because I like to throw the spotlight on community leadership, because I think sometimes they don't get the limelight, or that type of leadership doesn't get the limelight, and it should do, because those people are making the greatest difference in our society. So I do that as well. So this kind of fits in really well with my existing plan, because I and then it leads on to something that I do on the side, which is the coaching and mentoring. So it was a great way to embed this into my existing plan. However, the danger would have been if I set it up as yet another live stream, which I kind of almost got there because I wasn't thinking. And then after our conversation, I was like, Lorlett, can we do this on Saturday? And you were like, yeah, fine. And I thought, phew, that's a relief.
But the reality, sorry, the reality is this, that, they said, if you want anything done, ask a busy person. And that
Mm,
busy person will always find ways to get something done, and we think, oh, that person is so busy. But, they will find a way to do it. As you said, you went away, look at your calendar and think, well, this is what I'm doing anyway. And it's in alignment. Alignment is a very big word for me. You know,
mm,
when something is in alignment, it works. And then you look at it and you think, yeah, actually, this fits in with what I'm doing. It's my values, it's my way of thinking, it's my way of doing. I do this anyway. All it is now, I'm adding more value to it by having somebody doing it with me on a regular basis instead of me doing it on my own. And, that makes a lot of sense because the connection's got to be there. And the connection is the alignment. What have we got in common? And that's where the connection comes into it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's how people are connecting with us. Something I was thinking about this morning actually, Lole, around connections. So, like, we have a number of connections on LinkedIn, and some of my clients, or the people I've worked with, haven't necessarily been my connections. They've been people that have followed me that I had no idea they were following me. Like, some of my clients had followed me for a year, 2 years. It goes back to the whole trust thing. You know, I have to trust myself as well. As a leader, I have to trust myself. I have to have self belief in order to know that whatever I'm taking on, I can deliver. And I think about the whole following thing, and I thought, oh my gosh, it takes a year or 2 years to build trust, because that is what it is, isn't it? Like, somebody is watching me. I have to evidence that I can deliver before they come to me, knock on my door, and say, yeah, Munwara, I want to buy from you. Just a question, like, what are your thoughts around that, Lole?
I think it's alignment. It comes again um, when you think of timing. It has to be timing. It could be sharing, 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 and that moment in time, it doesn't fit in with what that person is dealing with. And that particular moment, you might have shared something, just like you did with your poster on power. And so it's something that I'm really interested in, is how people own their own power. And I saw it and I thought, oh, that makes, you shared a lot of things on LinkedIn. And I might have ticked it because I have a relationship with you, but not necessarily commented on it. I think that's the thing about connection. When you look at adverts, when you look at advertising, when you look at marketing, that's it. It's finding out what people need, what they're dealing with, and being able to create your content in that context, to enable somebody to reach out to you and say, oh yeah, that person understands me, because it's about experience. People are looking for connection. What have we got in common? What makes us, and what make that person an expert. And it's looking at, okay, what have they accomplished, because people look at what is it that you're actually doing. That's why social media is so powerful, because you see somebody coming out of a plane, somebody jumping out of a plane, and you thought, yeah, I want some of that. Or see somebody cooking, like Monroe always showing all these lovely dishes. And I think to myself, how come you're not inviting me home for dinner, kind of thing. And I'm thinking, wow, I can just imagine what it must be like for her when she have her friends and her family around. That must be amazing. So she's really into family. She really into cooking. And so people make up a story about you based on what they see, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is why it's sometimes quite painful as well when you're watching social media. I don't know if it's for you, but I find it like, when people are following other people and they make the assumption that they want the same results, but they want it overnight. And my lesson learned over the 3 years on LinkedIn has been that you've got to be in it for the long haul. So it's not just the connections you make, but there are people watching you, and the trust you're building trust. And it's the same with small charities, right? Because small charities, when they are demonstrating their impact, which is something we do very well at Wolfen Forest Community Hub. When we're demonstrating our impact, we are building trust in the eyes of the funders, right? And you look at that relationship, a charity, a small charity or a community organization and the funder. So they are delivering a service and the funder is paying for that service. It's the same relationship as maybe you and I, and we're doing our leadership coaching and we are selling it through whatever social media. In my case, maybe LinkedIn, but I'm also on YouTube. And those people that are following us, surely they're following us because they need the evidence before they can say, yeah, we're willing to buy from this person because they have the expertise we require. So what would you say to that? Like, because sometimes I have seen friends of mine, connections of mine, really disappointed because they might be running something like a campaign or program on LinkedIn, and at the end they haven't closed with sales.
I always say to my clients, how you show up is everything. How you show up is everything. And you never know what the impact you have on other people. And so it could be somebody buying to you. Again, it's the whole thing around alignment. Two people are standing together, and then you or yourself networking would look at those two people and think, yeah, what have I got in common with that person? And sometimes, we get it wrong by actually looking at that person and think, oh, yes, I have something in common with them. And then you have a conversation because it's in the conversation, the power of conversation that makes a difference. For some people, you realize, just start talking to them and you thought, oh my goodness, I got nothing in common with this person because you try to hold a conversation with them, could be on a topic or something or some sort. Like when I was talking to you about storytelling and, the impact of that, we had so much in common, so we could really, I call it, dance in the conversation with each other. I mean, there was no restriction, there was no barriers. When you're able to dance in the conversation with somebody, that's where the connection comes into it because you could talk forever, 2, 3, 4 hours, and then you say to yourself, oh my goodness, you know, and then somebody it could be 5 minutes and it's like, oh no, this is too hard. This is
Yeah.
too hard, and it's the same as your post. Some posts, I mean, I can tell you there's some people on LinkedIn. I look forward to their posts because there's always something that resonates with me. I'm in alignment with them in that sense. So that's what they say about your following. Who follows you is because there's something about you without even you knowing that you're having an impact. And that for me is influence. You influence people without you even knowing it. So many people are no longer with us, like from President Nelson Mandela and all the great leaders. I mean, my grandmother, my mother, they're no longer around, but the things that they used to say still have an impact. Nelson Mandela for me is about developing that winner's mindset, really be positive regardless of what's happening. Always think it's possible. And it always seems impossible until it's done. And so when I think of Nelson Mandela, it's that winner's mindset. I've never met him. But the reality is that once he speaks, I hear what he says and I want to really do good because of him, and the extraordinary things that he's doing. And sometimes people just want to do because of that person they're actually following. So, Manwara, I mean, you're thinking that, okay, that person might not get what you get, but they're not you. And that's what makes it so unique. Two people go after the same job, same qualification, same education, but there's something different about that individual. And if you are your job is to connect with the panel, in any situation. What is it about that person, those people sitting there? And, people don't take the time out, and it's a skill to be delivered. Don't take the time to find out what is it about that person that makes them different. Like when I go into schools, and I work with young people. Used to. I no longer do work in schools. But one of the skill I recognize for myself and my strength is being able to connect with people. Really, really and truly. What is it about that person? You see a person in a corridor and you would take the time out to say hello. And hello, it doesn't cost much, but for some people it's a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you say this a lot about curiosity, right? Spiritually, we don't even have a clue where our paths are going to cross. And sometimes when you sit down during a quiet moment to yourself and you reflect and you see people that you are very well connected to, how your path initially connected. And sometimes you kind of, Mildred and I met through a corridor. We worked in the same organization. She was in communications, I was in fundraising. And we used to connect on the photocopier and have chats. That's how it all started. And this is the thing. Years later, like in 2020, I contacted Mildred. I was looking for her because I remembered I made a mental note. There were things I would do, and when that time comes, I will go to Mildred. So it's very, very interesting how, like, things and how our journeys can, like, pass. I would not have known you and I would be collaborating together, but we are. And I have to say, to be honest, like, we don't always own our power. I mean,
True.
I've been in several leadership roles where, and this is the problem, and I think not problem, the challenge of leadership. You are always balancing. It's a balancing act between, do they want me to, or don't they want me? Everyone needs to feel empowered. Doesn't matter what title you have. You could be the president of the United States. You need to know that your people want you to do something, right? You have to feel empowered. So I could be in a group and I could be the chair of the group, but I need to know the rest of the group. What do they want to achieve? And what do we want to collectively produce? What's the collective outcome that we want? And that, I think, is in the core of community leadership. And without that, you can be a CEO of a company, whether private, public sector, wherever. That's easy. But I think the difference is where you, in your leadership, there are times when you will own that power, there are times when you have to sit back. Because if you don't sit back, you're going to miss the important things, because things are changing all the time and you are surrounded by a group, and you need to know what the group really wants, because you are representing them. And this is where the power dynamics plays a big role, and why people are worried about putting the wrong person in power, because leaders have influence, but that influence can be misused, right?
And that's so true, because the reality of it is, you know, I'm accountable for all my training, and consultancy, and making sure in the design, be innovative and creative when whatever it is I'm designing, whether it's a retreat, whether it's a workshop, whether it's a masterclass. I'm really accountable for the outcome, because if I'm not responsible, then there's a huge impact. It's understanding what that means. So the reality of it is, when you're designing anything, it's really visualizing what experience do you want people to be left with. And that is a skill in itself, right across the board. If you're having a party, it's about what experience do you want people to be left with. So for example, the food, and it's no point um, preparing whatever you're preparing and not take into considering who your guests are. For example, you might get some people are vegetarian, some people eat meat in that sense. So if you apply that to every aspect of your life, you have a team. What experience do you want your team to have? What experience do you want your clients to have? and that is where it begins. That's where the connection begins because you start to think, oh, yes, everything is an experience because you can teach something theoretically, but unless that person really experienced it, that's where the impact comes into it, the connection. And, it could be, as I said, you walk in the street and somebody said hello to you, and you having a rough day, that morning, you'll probably wake up and something's going on. And just the sheer fact that somebody took the time out to say, hello, how you doing? And you might not even know that person, but that person took the time to say hello. And whatever you were dealing with, that cheer you up, full time, and you think to yourself, wow. And years later, I remember during COVID, I went into Asda to do some shopping, and I was there, thinking, what should I get? What should I get? And a young man passed me. I couldn't tell you what he looks like because I was so struck by the sheer fact he said, "Oh, you're spoiled for choice," and I was like, "True." I spoiled for choice in that sense because I was standing there thinking, "What should I have? What should I have? What should I have?" And by the time I look around, he disappeared. But he left a lasting impact on me. I don't know what he looks like. All I remember was his voice saying to me, you're spoiled for choice." And I was like, yeah, I get that. I spoiled for choice. I had options. And for some people, they might think, oh, that was nothing, but it was a big thing to me. I don't know what he looks like, but he has left an impression with me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. And, this is the thing. When we were looking at how many ways we connect and things we have in common, like both of us don't like celery, right?
Yeah,
And both of us remember the word hello. Is
yeah,
in some ways is etched into our mind because the first word I learned when I came to the UK, when I was a toddler, a child, was hello. I learned how to say hello, and everybody who passed my window, I would wave and say hello. I was so fascinated by this, and I remember that. That's the thing I remember from my childhood very, very clearly. And so again, like there's that connection between you and I, the similarity of things, and some of the things that you have done, going back to your proverbs, collaboration,
yeah.
and one hand can't clap.
Exactly. That came from my grandmother. She's always, whenever she wants me to do anything, even as a child growing up, she just look at me and she said, one hand can't clap. So meaning, are you coming to help me? Are you coming to contribute, to that thing? And so without even saying a lot, it communicates a lot. Just that simple in that sense. And so for me, One Anchor Club, it's not just a business. It resonates with me. It's a culture. It's an alignment. It's a way of being, and I take it on because anytime I'm doing anything, automatically I think, who can support me? Who can I tap into? What conversation do I need to have? And that has enabled me to thrive in everything I've done because I never really think, even when I set up One Hand Car Club, I didn't set it up, oh, well, it's my business. There's always about who is coming with me, who am I working with, who can I support, who can take me to my next level. So it's always about community, partnership, collaboration. And it's important to understand what drives you because that's my values. As a leader, you need to know what your values are, because if you're driven by your values, that's it. If saying hello to somebody or connecting with people is part of your values, then that in itself is amazing because it's you. It's so innate. You don't have to think about it. Seeing somebody and saying hello, if it's what you really believe and strongly believe in it, you look after your team. And it's the culture that you operate within, which is important. And I don't think people understand what conversation are you having within that culture. So if you have a culture in an organization where you put people down, you don't empower people, you don't make them feel like they're winners, you don't make them feel empowered, then your team is going to be dysfunctional. As a leader, your job is to make sure that your team and the people that you're around feel special all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. and it's not easy, but I think the intention has to be there. It all starts with the intention. Just like connecting with other people starts with an intention, right? So everything you said there, very, very powerful. And I'm just thinking as we progress with these lives, so we won't be here next Saturday because I had a prayer engagement. But from the Saturday after, we will be here, and we will also invite guests. So I hope that, like, this will be hugely valuable, and eventually this will lead to a master class. We're not going to give you as many details yet, but in April, and that master class will be all about how do you do this. So we will talk through, and we will share with people one of the things that most people struggle with, and that is how to collaborate. And our master class will be a very, very powerful um, next step in your leadership growth. For anyone who is interested in knowing more details about the masterclass, we will be dropping hints as we go along on Saturdays, um, in the coming, well, this month anyway, at least. Keep your eyes peeled, and your ears out, and we will share the date as well as more details about the masterclass. So, Lola, any sort of passing, because we've been talking for a while, and we will be back not next Saturday, but the Saturday after on the 27th. Is there anything you want to add? It's been
Yes,
such.
I just like to acknowledge Julene for her comment, that she
Oh,
said intention is powerful, and thank you for being here and also be your contribution and connected with us by what we're actually saying, because it's what we say that makes a difference. And I hope what we're sharing is making a difference to you and a contribution. And I'm glad that we have that in common, that your mother used to say, one hand called clap. Follow me on LinkedIn and tell me more about that, because it's important to keep, the values, because all values are tied up in what we communicate. They say you can tell something about a person by just talking to them for 5 or 6 minutes. They will tell you who they are and what they're up to. So that's what I got to say, Manuel.
thank you very much, Lorlett. I'm so sorry, Julene. I didn't really focus. I was so engrossed in Lorlett and our master class, or what we're planning and developing as we go along. Thank you, Jolene, for engaging. It means a lot to us, and a wonderful share there about your mum. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, Julene, and Lorlett. I hope that I look forward to the next one.
Definitely, and I just like to say this is a prime example about collaboration. If you was on your own, you would have missed that message. And this is why it's so important. And we can hand down that note to actually say, one hand can't clap. It takes two. It doesn't matter what. But a young person I was working with the school, he said, Miss, he can't clap, but he can slap. you know. So thank you very much. I really appreciate being here, and I look forward, a couple of weeks. And
Yeah,
enjoy the rest of your weekend. Angeline, you have a good one, and I look forward to following you on LinkedIn. And yeah, see you again.
take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.